I'm Margaret Ann Windsor, and I was kidnapped in 41 and brought to Moulton, Alabama, or near there, Lawrence County. And this is Lina Dempsey, who killed her twins. This family, I was brought over there in 41. This is 43. It was made. This is me. She had twins, Peggy Ann Dempsey and Carl Preston Dempsey, and they were born out of wedlock, and they were even born before I was, and the birth certificates were marked through by the state of Alabama, which is illegal, and inserted above it was the date that I grew up using when they stole my name. I was put there, and I've told you who was responsible on all these videos I put up before. I am going to go to this part. I wrote a book before I found out about my kidnapping. I found that out in '83. I'd written a medical malpractice book, MD: A License to Kill, unpublished because they put antifreeze in me April the 1st of '80. This has all been a joke, a sick, sick joke. And the FBI agent told me back then, he yawned, pretended to be bored, and said it's only when they find out how it affects them that they care. Larry Flint was shot and his attorney killed in Lawrenceville, March the 6th of '78. I was living in Marietta, Georgia, and I'd never met him. One of the doctors, U.S. Congressman Larry McDonald at Piedmont Hospital, he was a urologist in Atlanta. One of the subjects was him, and I wrote about mind control in the deaths of Warren and Rosina Matthews, pathologist at his hospital. Was prosecuted in Cobb County. Wrong people paid for the crime, but anyway, this is just Mr. Flint flew me out there during the campaign and helped me. He says I knew who was responsible for his shooting, but this is a mind control, and the person was programmed just like the Kennedy, where the Warren Commission covered it up because it would lead back to my kidnapping. His father was ambassador to England during that time, appointed by Roosevelt. He and my Uncle George, who's illegal, George the Sixth, helped kidnap me and take down my father, Edward the Eighth. And my father was married to Georgia O'Keeffe's sister, Claudia Ruth O'Keeffe, from Madison, Wisconsin. So he was never married to Wallace Simpson. That was a total lie. She married a double. So they took down my father, and history's a lie. So go back to the illegal treaties after 41 that were signed, making Israel a state. You got all these where they used the Brits, the United Kingdom, and took away everything British and installed their own military all over everything. Now look at what's going on with Iraq. Look back in time. People are still living good here, and they're not going to, I don't know if maybe there's some that are trying to help, but my life's been hell. Now, I just wanted to say this on this one today. I have told about the mind control murders ever since then, and my life, you can't tell, and my sons, Mark and Scott, and my countries, and my mother and father that I was taken from them at age 2. Now that I'm going to go back, I didn't mean to include this today, but there was a murder happened, I believe it was in Boston, it's in Massachusetts, and it was not that many years ago, maybe 10, I'm not sure it was that long ago. But it was a murder, and they convicted a Brit. He's from, I believe he's a citizen of England, of the UK anyway. They convicted him of killing his wife and really a newborn baby almost. And it's a total lie. Total lie. He's in prison for a murder he didn't commit. And somebody said, and it really gets me, if they ever, I hope I'm alive and they tell this whole thing, because they hate my guts, the Americans do, because they are above the law. They committed the crimes against me and my country and took me from my loving home and put me in this dump where nobody has paid for a crime, none of them, anywhere in this. The Kennedys, nobody. The cover-up with the Kennedys, mind control was used in that, and the Martin Luther King Jr. Shooting, Andrew Young, they all know the truth about this in Atlanta. That's where the antifreeze was put in me, and so much of this happened. So I'm going to NAACP has stayed away from it. I want to get back to this. I was thinking about, well, what are some of the murders? Because over the years you forget there's so many that were done in patterns deliberately. And I thought well, I really wasn't thinking about Neil Enthwistle. I put a YouTube up and on Facebook back about a year and a half ago. I was really looking at Family Affair because that's where Sebastian Cabot is the butler, and they've got twins in it, Jody and I'm going to forget here. I'm going to have to go down here. Jody and Buffy. Okay, I knew that Henry Cabot Lodge. Well, I may have said something there. Look back and see who he was, how he died. Sebastian Cabot died because my husband, I think the Brits paid that debt back in 69 to 71, 72, owned a double net in Fulton Industrial, and one of his people, salesman, who had been something way up in the U.S. Army, sat beside Sebastian Cabot on the way out to L.A., Los Angeles, and told him that he'd send him some rolls of material, double knit, if he'd give him his address. Well, he died, but it was sometime later when he died, and you have to see how he died. But you go back, I was looking back because the twins, Buffy and Jody, I knew that at least one of the girls, the twin, I'm not sure about the other one, and I won't say that, the one that wasn't a twin, but her name's, what is her name? She's the twin that played Buffy. Anyway, well, I had it written down. But anyway, it's easy to look up. Okay, Anissa Jones played Buffy. She died 76 of an overdose. Now, this is what I've been telling about, murders that can be made appear as suicide. They can create illnesses or cure them, cancer, you name it. So this is why I don't know how I'm still alive. I'm not sure I'm long for this earth. Anyway, I've been pretty much done in. But anyway, I want to go. I knew Brian Keith was murdered, and it states he committed suicide in '97. Well, and he was suffering from emphysema and terminal lung cancer. And they say in some of the, if you Wikipedia it or any of it, it says that he was concerned over his stepmother's suicide, and I went back and Googled her, and her name is Peggy Enthwistle, and she's from Wales, the UK. Well, that was a long time ago that supposedly she committed suicide. Okay, his daughter Daisy Keith, and I've forgotten, she had a married name, but 10 weeks before he committed suicide, or supposedly, she committed suicide. And I think that was a gunshot to the head. I'm not sure. I may have gotten how it was supposedly done between, well, I don't know. You can Google it. What I'm saying is there was one of them done with a rifle, whether it was Brian or the daughter. Well, he was concerned about it. And you get into this, and I know who's supposed to be responsible in doing these mind control murders, but I don't know. How can you put something? I mean, I know some things that I don't think you can put together. And somebody's going to, I know what to do with it. They don't want to admit. I've put names, everything on here of what has been done to me, the timeline, all of it. There's no way that I could even make it up. And excuse me if I didn't have the way they were supposed to have committed suicide, because it was suicide by mind control.